Hi guys, today we're going to go over my November TBR. I have a lot of really atmospheric, autumnal reads that I want to try to get to this month, and I'm just really excited. This is my favorite season for reading. I moved on from some of the spookier stuff, but I think a lot of these are going to be cozy, good fall reads. But before we get into that, I want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Ana Luisa. Ana Luisa is a carbon neutral, water neutral, sustainable jewelry company, and they've been so kind as to create a code for my followers to use. So if you use the code Lexi's Library 10, you can get 10% off site-wide. That includes all of their stuff, earrings, necklaces, bracelets, rings. They've got so much cute stuff. I especially love looking through their new arrivals. They've always just got cute stuff coming in, and it's dainty and professional, but it also has a lot of personality, I think. So I absolutely love this company, and thank you so much to Ana Luisa for sharing this code with my followers. So Ana Luisa was so kind as to send me a couple of their pieces to show you guys today, and I cannot reiterate enough how much I love their jewelry, and it's all like just my taste. So first up, we have this lovely bracelet. It's called Raven, and it's like these two roped chains that are just so delicate and pretty. And I didn't even notice it when I requested this bracelet, but there's a cute little dagger on it. Oh my gosh, I feel like such a badass, but like in a really feminine, cute kind of way. And then I also got these earrings from them, which I think are just so fun and simple and cute, and also like very different from like the typical hoops that I see. They just like hook right into your ear. These ones are called the Lee, and they're the white version. They also have these with black gemstones, which I think are super pretty, but they were sold out of those ones this time around. But I think I'm gonna purchase those on my own at some point because they're so cool. And I just think they're like so delicate, but like almost a little edgy, you know? It's got like that fish hook thing going on. I just think they're so fun. And then finally, I have this necklace in one of my favorite colors. It's like this olive green. It's called the Victoria, and it's just got a simple little gemstone on it. So I think this is a good necklace for fall. It's just a simple little accent piece, which are honestly some of my favorite necklaces. So thank you again so much to Ana Luisa for sending me this jewelry and for allowing me to share this with my followers. I really appreciate it, and I love this jewelry company. All right, and now diving right into the books. First up, I have an arc that I want to try to get to this month, and that is Heart of the Sun Warrior, which is the sequel to Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. I still cannot believe I got this arc. I requested it like on the chance that I would be accepted, but like not expecting it. So when like I got approved, I gasped. And I'm so excited because this is one of my most anticipated sequels coming out this year. I read Daughter of the Moon Goddess earlier this year, and I just fell in love. I thought the world building was amazing. The inspiration that it took from Chinese mythology was just so immersive and enchanting, and I loved the characters, and it just felt so high stakes. So I'm really excited for this sequel. I'm honestly not sure where it's gonna go. I feel like Daughter of the Moon Goddess it could read as a standalone. I feel like a lot of the problems and such were wrapped up really nicely in that first book. There's a couple open threads that I'm expecting to see more development on, but as a whole, not really super sure, but I think this is gonna be another lovely, enchanting read, and I pre-ordered the Fairy Loot edition of it to match my edition of Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and it's gorgeous. I cannot wait to receive that. And then another really high priority read for this month for me, but that's not quite out yet, is Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. This is actually probably my most anticipated sequel coming out this year. It does rank up pretty closely with Heart of the Sun Warrior, but Bloodmarked edges it out just like a little bit. And this is a sequel to Legendborn, which came out, I believe, in 2020. It may have been 2021. I think I read it last year, and I just absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite reads of the year. I thought it was just so interesting and such a unique take on Arthurian legend. We follow a character named Bree who just recently lost her mom, and she gets into this like early college acceptance program at, I believe, UNC Chapel Hill. And so she's a little younger, like she's not typical college age, which puts it more in that YA area. But early on in her sort of experience there, she witnesses basically a demon attack, and she sees some fellow students kind of take care of the problem, and she's like, what is going on? And she sort of stumbles into this secret society that surrounds basically the scions of King Arthur and his courts, his like Knights of the Round Table, like their scions. And I just thought that was so cool. If you like that secret society kind of plot line, this has plenty of that. There's also a lot of microaggression and racism that she has to deal with, being like literally the only Black girl in this group. There's a lot of like institutionalized racism and stuff that she's dealing with as well, and it's just it's so good. This poor girl goes through so much, but like with such grace. There's also like a competition element if you like that. I always find that really fun in YA, and I just thought this was a beautiful balance of like a really entertaining, high-paced plot with like a really deep and like complex magic system and like characters that you just love. I really connected to Bree like as a main character. I obviously there's some things about her that like where I'm white I can't relate to, but like I just thought she was such a compelling main character, and I loved reading her journey. And then like the side characters are all really good too. She's kind of got a love triangle thing going on, which like is one of my favorite things ever, at least when it's done well, and it is done so well. So I'm really excited for Bloodmarked. Oh my gosh. Can't wait for that to come out. I'm pretty much planning on reading it immediately, so very excited. And the rest of the books that I want to read this month, luckily I do own, so jumping into that, I have kind of a book of the month backlist, which is Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey. This book is just like, that's just fall. Like, the vibes of this cover are just, it's so spooky. It makes me want to like get a cup of tea and cuddle up in a flannel blanket or something. This is a contemporary fiction novel, I believe, and it's quite short, and we follow a character who arrives in Scotland to lead a team of biologists tasked with reintroducing 14 gray wolves into the remote Highlands. So it's an interesting kind of setup. I tend to like reading about like biologists or like characters that are really interested in nature. I think that's fun, and especially I think the wolf element is gonna be really cool. And I believe there is an accident. A farmer's found dead, and it's believed that one of these wolves killed them. And so this character has to kind of get to the bottom of it. And I'm not really quite sure much else about it, but I'm very intrigued, and I think it's going to be a very atmospheric read for November. Then I have The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reed. I read Juniper and Thorn earlier in the summer, which that is a really good read for fall if you're looking for something really spooky. I'm not really quite sure if this is going to be quite as visceral as Juniper and Thorn was, but I was really intrigued when this came out, and I've been wanting to read it for like over a year now. I'm pretty sure I got this for Christmas last year, actually, from my boyfriend, so thank you, Zach. This book, I believe, is kind of like Jewish and Slavic folklore, and I think it's kind of like Snow White vibes. I'm not sure. The main character I know is kind of like betrayed by her village and like offered up as a sacrifice. And then there's also a woodsman that she comes across with. I'm not sure. I don't want to delve too deep into this because I feel like it'd be better to go in more or less blind, but I really did like Ava Reed's writing. It's very like purple and lush, and while the content of Juniper and Thorn wasn't my favorite, I feel like I'll like this maybe perhaps a little bit better. I'm actually not sure, but I know I like this author's writing, and I'm very intrigued by like what I've heard about this book and like the vibes that the cover gives off. So I'm hoping I enjoy it, and I think it'll be a good read for November. Another book of the month backlist is What Comes After by Joanne Tompkins. This follows the aftermath of a murder-suicide of two young like teenage boys in a community, and then like the appearance of a pregnant teenage girl who may or may not have known these boys. This one like really piqued my interest when it first came out, like when I got it from Book of the Month, I believe last year. Yeah, this was an April 2021 pick, so I've been holding on to it for a while, and I do really want to get around to reading it. I just haven't really been in the mood for like more contemporary, moody, like sad reads, and I feel like this is gonna be that, but I'm kind of coming around to that. Like, I love fantasy. It's my, like, go-to genre, but I think it's also good to break it up with some more, like, realistic fiction, I guess, literary fiction. And this one really intrigued me, so I haven't really heard a lot about it since it's come out, but my interest is still piqued, and I think just, like, considering this is gonna be a bit darker, I feel like November's a good month for kind of those moodier reads. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading this one, and I hope it's good. Got a heavy hitter coming up next. Stephen King's Fairy Tale. This came out quite recently. I got it for my birthday. I would have loved to have gotten to it in October, but I just realistically knew like I wasn't going to be able to fit it in with all the stuff that I had already planned on reading in October. So I scooted it back to November, and this is a pretty high priority read for me. I'm very curious about this one. I've heard excellent things about this newest release from Stephen King, and just content-wise, it's like the first thing he's written more recently in like the last few years that I've been really intrigued by. Like, this just seems to check a lot of my boxes. And in this one, we follow a teenage boy. I believe his name is Charlie. And yep, he ends up befriending a neighbor and his neighbor's dog. And the neighbor is kind of older and sickly. And I believe on like a shed on this man's property is a portal to another world. So I'm not really quite sure how the story is going to go. I've heard some people were like really into the first half and not so much the second. And I imagine that second half is going to be him more exploring this fantasy world, like through this portal, but I'm not sure. So I know I'm really excited to read this. It's been a really long time since I've read something by Stephen King, but I do know that I like his writing. We'll see if he can stick the landing. That seems to be his biggest issue. I'm so curious about this one, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And then I have Finale by Stephanie Garber, which is the last book in the Caraval trilogy. This is sort of going to be my journey wrapping up like Stephanie Garber's backlist. I recently read Ballad of the Never After by Stephanie Garber, which is the sequel to Once Upon a Broken Heart, which is a spin-off of Caraval. And so I figured where I loved that, or where I am loving that series so much, I should probably go back and read the OG series. And I'm loving it so far. I just finished up Legendary a few weeks ago, and honestly, it's been hard not to just jump straight into Finale, but I really wanted to try to stick to my TBR. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this particular trilogy wraps up. I am loving the characters so far, and the mystery that has been like threaded through these 3 books is just so intriguing. I'm really curious to see where it goes, and I love these, like, this world that Stephanie Garber has created. It is just some of the most fun I've had reading this year. It's the perfect kind of escapist fantasy, and I love it. So I am so excited to read this. This author can make me like gasp and laugh out loud, and I think there's gonna be a lot of that in this. So very excited to read this one. Man, I have a lot of Book of the Month backlist books on this list. We'll see if I can get to them all. Next up is A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. I have heard very divisive things about this book. Like, the people that liked it really liked it, and the people that didn't really didn't. I'm not quite sure what to expect from this one. I'm definitely obviously getting like spooky thriller vibes. I believe the main character's father was a serial killer, but he's been in jail for several decades now, and the main character is an adult. And these like copycat murders start to happen, but like I believe it's like details that the public wouldn't know. I'm not exactly sure, but like it's close enough that it freaks out the main character to the point where like I think she establishes contact with her father again to try to like figure out what's happening. I hope it's good. I like a good like fast-paced thriller every now and then, especially this time of the year, so I'm hoping I'm one of the people that likes this book. I feel like I picked up this next book because I saw like an aesthetic TikTok about it, and I was like, that looks amazing. And that is The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. Also, I love Pip Williams. Like, that's such a fun name. I don't really remember a lot about this book. I feel like it has to do with academia, and I think the main character is like the daughter of a man who's like working on putting together the Oxford English Dictionary. And she decides to collect the objectionable words that they omit. So I believe this is kind of like feminist vibes, it's historical fiction, and it sounds like a lot of fun. The academia thing makes me think fall, so I figured this would be a good fit for this month. This next book is both a fairy loot book that I've recently received and an ARC that I have not yet read or reviewed. So this is gonna be like 2 birds, 1 stone, and that is Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. I believe this is Adrienne Young's first adult book. I'm really excited about that because there's some books that are like on her backlist that I've been curious about, but I, at this point in time, am much more interested in adult fiction, so I'm hoping this is good. So this book follows a couple, Emery and August, and when they were teenagers, August was accused of murdering Emery's best friend, Lily. Then we kind of pass a couple of decades, I believe, or some years. Something brings these two back together again, 14 years later. Okay. So I believe, obviously, that there's like a misunderstanding. I don't know if he was convicted for this murder or what, but I am very intrigued. And the vibes of the cover are giving like Pacific Northwest, spooky, cozy. Again, like I just want to drink a cup of tea when I look at this cover. So like very different color palettes, but very similar vibes in my opinion. So I think this will be a great read for this month, and maybe like on a cold, rainy day, I'll crack this one open. I'm very excited for it. And then finally, this one is sort of like a stretch goal. We'll see if I can actually get to it, because I feel like I have several kind of lengthier novels on my list for this month. But I would really love to start Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I've heard amazing things about this duology. It's got this like magical, I don't even want to say realism, because like this is hardcore, like full fantasy. It just seems so cozy. In this one, we follow a man named Laszlo who's really obsessed with like the lost world of what people now call Weep, but it's not like its actual name. Like its real name was lost to time, I think. Eventually, it kind of just starts to become like a myth, like, oh, it's not real. But he's like remains convinced that it is real and it's a place that it can be reached still. And I just think that sounds so intriguing. And I believe he gets the opportunity to go to Weep, which is like a dream come true for him. But like he finds out the mystery of what happened to it and why it's been cut off from the rest of the world. And it just sounds so beautiful. I've just heard amazing things about this duology, and that like the writing is beautiful, and I'm so excited to jump into this. I've been wanting to read it for so long. I've actually had this on my TBR long enough where I had this one and its sequel, Muse of Nightmares, in paperback for a really long time. And then I found the hardcovers, which I prefer hardcovers if you can't tell. I don't love the design of this hardcover quite as much as I do the paperback, but I found this and its sequel used, and so I decided to pick them up and switch them out with my paperback versions, and I gave the paperbacks to my friends. So this has been on the TBR for quite some time, and I'm hoping I can get to this, if not this month, then like before the end of the year, because I just feel like I'm missing out on something incredible by not having read this yet. All right, and that wraps up a very ambitious TBR for November. We'll see if I can get to them all. We've got some holidays coming up, obviously, which will be some more reading time, but it's also like I'm gonna be spending time with family because it's the holidays, so we'll see how it balances out and how much reading I'll actually be able to squeeze in this month. But there's just so many books I want to read that I think are perfect for this time of year, and there's just not enough time to read them all. So please let me know down in the comments below, what should I start with? I'm a little overwhelmed, but excited to read all of these, obviously. And if you've read any of them and loved them, please let me know, because I think that would be helpful in convincing me what to pick up first. And thank you again to Ana Luisa for sponsoring today's video. Please feel free to check out their link in my description box down below if you were interested. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please feel free to follow my channel, subscribe, please, would super appreciate it, and like this video if you feel so inclined. And as always, have a lovely day.